the pandemic today, go through the challenges of confrontations today. And those tools, number one, we are calling it, you need a very good attitude to go through life. You need a good attitude. You need an attitude that we must embrace to go through life. You know, Pastor, when you are going through problems, sometimes you ask yourself, why now? Why me? God, why me and why now? Many of us, we ask so many things. If when we go through problems, we ask ourselves many things. Why is it happening to me? Why is it that I am the one going through this? Why not someone else? So number one thing that we need to embrace if we are going to succeed during these pandemic times, number one, we are saying, Pastor, you need the right attitude to go through life. What is attitude? Attitude in mutasam. You need to have a very good perspective of why you are going through what you are going through. Because sometimes if you don't have the right attitude, why you are going through what you are going through, you may have the wrong attitude which will actually reverse. It will reverse your life and reverse your family and reverse your ministry. The right attitude will help you to embrace the right perception, the right courage to keep on and without giving up. So we are talking number one, we are talking about attitude. Number two, we also say, Pastor, what you need this day, what you need to go through this challenging moment, it is not only the right attitude, but you also need a resource. You also need a resource. You need resources. Unahitaji rasilimali. You need resources. And we are calling it a resource. Pastor, you need a resource. We must ask ourselves, now that I am not able to access so many things, what are the resources that are going to be available for me to go through what I'm going through? Resources are very important. And we are saying, you need the right attitude to embrace when you are going through challenges. And number two, you need to have a good resource, a resource center. For example, you know, pastors, many of us, during the time we are told we are not going to interact with people, during that time, getting resources becomes a challenge. You cannot even get material that can help you to navigate through your situation. But now, EAK is coming to bring resources in your hands as a church minister, as a clergy. You're going to be given so many resources, rasilimali zenye unaweza kutap into as you serve the church, as you serve that community. So we are saying you don't only need a good attitude, you need good attitude, yes, but you also need a good resource. For all resources that we must ask for. We need to get good resources. Number three, which is the last one, we need to get a good theology that we must believe. Sometimes, Pastor, like what Bishop Fred has been saying here in Kwamba, when you go through problems, people even tend to think you are going through these problems because you have sinned, you are backslided. There is something you have done that has made God to bring these problems on your way. But as we look at the life of Job and many believers and clergies and the ministers of the gospel, they suffered not because they have sinned, but because the theology they embraced. People suffer because of what they believe, not necessarily about wamefanya dhambi. Yes, sin is there and it brings trouble, but not every problem we go through is as a result of sin. So, if you are very accurate here, you realize I have talked about three letters. Letter one is A, which is you need a good attitude. I just want you to remember, I've talked about letter A, which is good attitude. The second letter is letter R, resources. You need good resources, Pastor. You need good resources, Bishop, Apostle, Prophet, Evangelist. You as the teacher of the word, we need resources. That's what I've talked about. And letter three is theology, which means it is A-R-T. If I had a blackboard here, I would write here the word with the letter A, I would write it here. Then I would also write the letter R here. Then I would write the letter T here. And then so I'm saying A means an attitude to embrace. Pastor, as you go through challenges, you need to embrace an attitude. And that's the attitude we're going to talk about. Number two, you need resources to help you go through the challenges you're going through. And number three, you need a good theology. You need to understand what does the Bible say when believers go through problems. You understand? When believers go through problems, we need to understand. Ladies and gentlemen, trials are inevitable, or difficult situations in this world that we live in are inevitable. All of us, we go through trials, difficulties, and challenges. Some of us respond very strongly after problems, but others will respond in a very challenging manner. Number 2 point I want to say that trials either make us or break us. We look at crisis as a surmountable problem or a great problem in our community. Church leaders, I want you to see this. When we go through trials, some of the trials will produce us very strong at the end. Some of the trials will produce us very weak at the end. What is going to make us to finish very strong is the right attitude. If you have the right attitude about what you are going through, the problems you are going through, the challenges you are going through, you have the right attitude, the right resources, the right theology, eventually you are going to emerge a strong person at the end. That's why Bishop Fred akasema, nilifikiria mulienda na corona, kumbe mungali mupo. Na tukasema tungali tupo. Watu wengine walisema bila wakati wa corona wachungaji kama hawana makanisa, hawana sadaka, watakwisha.